What's up, and welcome to Race Talks with Jordan Anderson. Today we're going to dive heavy into episode 1, which will be talking about the Black experience. I have two special guests who are well equipped and ready to tackle a few topics that are a little bit controversial in today's society, but are extremely necessary for conversation. Nikayla Fogel is a May 2020 graduate of Furman University with a Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience and minor concentration in Medicine, Health, and Culture. For 2 of her 4 years as a student of Furman, she served as the president of the Furman University chapter of the NAACP. Nikayla used her position as a president to serve and advocate for minority, specifically Black students at Furman University. She was also a peer facilitator for the Furman University DENS Dialogue program and led student-centered workshops on diversity and inclusion and social justice issues at Furman. Diana Fogel is a rising sophomore honors college scholar at Claflin University, the first historically Black university in the state of South Carolina. Currently, she is majoring in mass communications with a double concentration in broadcast journalism and digital media with a minor in marketing. For the 2020-2021 academic school year, Diana will serve as the second vice president for the Claflin University NAACP chapter, where she plans to further advocate for educational, political, and social equality across the Orangeburg, South Carolina community. So let's pray. Dear Lord, I thank you for this time. I thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak with 2 individuals about topics that are near and dear to my heart, Lord. I thank you that people will be able to lean and glean from this episode, and that they will be able to have conversations within their homes, workplaces, or office spaces. I thank you for the opportunity to be able to translate my thoughts into this video format, and that people will be able to take the information and apply it to their daily lives, Lord. I thank you for the race towards equality, the race towards genuine equality, Lord, that your hand will be in everything. I thank you for who you are, and I thank you for giving me the breath to be able to do this video. And I thank you just for the time that we have here on the earth to make a change and make an impact in the way that you see fit. Thank you for everything that you are again. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Our topic for today is the Black experience. And this conversation, this dialogue between us as Black individuals in America, between you and your family, you and your friends, is so important because we all come from different avenues of life. We're Black people in America, but we all have very different experiences. And talking about the experiences really unites us all, and that's what we really need at this moment in time, especially during this new rise in the Black Lives Matter movement. And we're pushing for legislative changes, we're pushing for structural changes, and really the compassion that we're asking from our peers and from others of other ethnicities and races, it comes through those conversations that we have. There are different things that we want others to understand about us, and in order for them to understand, we have to be open to having those conversations and for them to better understand us and to lead into those legislative and structural changes. So I'm excited for this conversation we're going to have, and yeah, we're going to get started.
When was the first time you noticed race, and can you explain the experience?
All right, so this goes back, 4th grade, my 4th grade year, so I was about 9. And so we're originally from the lower part of the state, Ellery, South Carolina, a small town. Within the city limits, it's a Black town. And we moved here to Greenville the summer before my 4th grade year, and we moved to a predominantly white neighborhood. So that was completely different, moving from a town that was completely Black. All you saw were your people surrounded by family, surrounded by friends, and moving to a completely different area. And our neighbors were white neighbors. They were small, like around our age, a little bit younger, more around Diane's age.
Yeah.
So about a couple years younger than us. And so we had a trampoline in our backyard. They were playing with us. And one day during our interaction, the oldest asked, "Why do you talk like that?"
Mm-hmm.
And so in that instance, we were like, "Huh? What?" Like, you don't really think about how you speak, your vernacular, how you project yourself and all of that. And it made me think, like, wait, like something wrong with the way I speak. And not until many years later did I realize that it may have been, I think it was something dealing with race. Like, it was racially rooted, especially coming from a town that is majority Black. And, you know, vernacular that we use within the Black community is a little bit different than that is used in other communities. And so that kind of was like the first instance, and especially because moving to a town and a neighborhood that's majority white, interacting with white people for the first time really in our lives. And I was age 9, Dia was around 5 or 6 at that time. And so you go 70 years, and that was the first one. It shook me to the core, because then we kind of just reflected on that experience and just that move, and like how we kind of had to assimilate and change in terms of like when you have someone say to you like, why do you speak that way? Why do you talk? You're like, wait, so I'm different. And when you're in that space, you're like, I need to do what I need to do to kind of make it in this world that's so different than what we're used to.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, my very first experience that kind of left me like ooh, it made me think a lot. So
yeah, definitely. I would say for me, it was around the same age when we moved to Greenville, from a Black community to a predominantly white area. And I think what I noticed the most was the friends that I would play with in our neighborhood. We went from living in a community that was all Black to living in a neighborhood where we were one of 3 Black families in a neighborhood of 70 families. So that really stood out. Just, those interactions, especially when I ended up going to the elementary school that I went to. I would be one of 5 Black people in my classes of 30, whereas at my school in our old community, in our old Black community, it was all Black children. When we played outside, it was all Black kids. So that was, I think, the main difference, like Nikayla said, learning to, at such a young age, to assimilate into white society. Because there you could just see the difference. You could really see the difference, even from the way the Black kids interacted from the white kids. Just seeing all of it as a whole, that was really when I first started to notice race. That was really the first time. So just definitely elementary school from a very young age.
Okay, so for our next question, what was your Black educational experience like? Can we start?
Yeah, I can start. So, this really ties back into what you were saying. When moving to 4th grade, moving to a predominantly white community, going to schools with white kids, other white peers for the first time, and really just being one of 5. I remember when I was in 4th grade, there were about 5 or 6 of us in my elementary school class. And just kind of like, I found myself, I did like have a lot of like the Black friends, we were all kind of band together. But it wasn't really into middle school when I really started to really, I guess, be around the other white kids in my classes. And the main reason is because I started entering into honors classes and higher level classes. And so we did see a lot of like, you will have 1 or 2 Black students in an honors class, and then the rest of them will be in the CP classes, they call them here, and you're like, why is that happening? But you'll be the one. And then that's where the Oreo came in for me. And you just kind of learn to just be a part of their world and be okay with it. And then like, it was just that was like the main kind of trend that occurred. I think even now as a recent graduate of college, I went to a predominantly white school, and being one of few at my school and being the minority, like that was just something that I just got really used to. But one thing that really stuck with me, just thinking about like history classes that we took, and just the lack of inclusion of Black history into our classes. We talk a little bit about slavery. We have a Black History Month, where that month the teacher may say something about Black history. But we all know that Black history is American history.
Yes.
This country is built off the backs of Black slaves from Africa. And so just the lack of inclusion and lack of notification of the struggle that we had to go to get to the point that we are today, it was always kind of like a slap in the face for me. It was just like, I always came home asking questions. And it's a struggle when the schools are not telling you everything, and then you have to come and ask your parents things, and so you are sitting there with your parents asking all these questions, trying to figure it out, and you still never get the full picture.
And it makes you feel as though your history is second rate.
Exactly.
That it isn't important, and that it isn't valued.
Exactly.
And when you have to, go back and forth,
Yep.
You're supposed to be learning, you're supposed to be reading books.
Yep.
But the content does not favor everyone.
Not at all.
So when the content doesn't favor everyone, it already places value on a certain race,
Exactly.
and it devalues,
Exactly.
whether intentionally or unintentionally, it devalues other races, you know, that aren't that one.
Exactly.
That's right.
And that's just, I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
We have children going through K through 12.
Yeah.
They all get the same state-issued textbooks.
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to think the information, whatever information is coming from the state, is
It's the
really
truth.
important.
Right.
It's the truth
Yep.
and the only truth.
Yep.
Exactly.
So when they're learning about their history, whether it's Black history, Hispanic history,
Yeah.
Asian American history,
Yeah. Native American history.
yes,
Gotta
they're
put that in
learning
there.
exactly. They're learning all of that information,
Yeah.
but not in the place they should be.
Exactly. Yeah, and then one thing I want to mention too is talking about even standards here in South Carolina. We only had the state standard says that students only need a minimally adequate education, and so thinking about education that I received K through third grade in our majority Black town, and then thinking about moving to Greenville and just the standard of education was completely different, and the only factor in it is that we were in a majority white town, and that was the reason that I received the education that I had. So even thinking about how our educational systems are set up differently. So when you're in a Black town, a minority town or district, the resources allocated to that district are different. The rigor is different, and then you move to a town that has white people, and then there's a bunch of privilege that comes with that. So we experience a lot of privilege moving to Greenville and having the educational experience we had, whereas others may not have those experiences. But that also shapes your experience, that shapes your trajectory in life. And so just thinking about those inequities in there as well, that was very hard for me to kind of come to grasp with as well. So.
I definitely agree. Going off of what Nikayla said, when I just think about how in South Carolina we have the corridor of shame, which is the lower part of the state where I attend school at Claflin University and where we're from. And it's just sad to think about, even from being at Claflin this past year as a freshman, just the different interactions I've had with my friends and the different conversations where there's just such a difference in the educational opportunities. You know, the internships we get, you know, just a difference in the quality of textbooks, you know, just the allocation of funds is just so different. And like Nikayla said, it's because we are in a white environment. You know, we have more funding up here, more money, but it should not be like that. You know, our peers in the lower part of the state, they should receive the same opportunities that we have.
It's deeply rooted into our education system.
It is.
I tell people all the time that when people were making the blueprints, they didn't consider how diverse America would be. They didn't consider that, hey, you know, we desegregated and got people to be in schools with one another.
Right.
But that isn't the only step that you can take.
Right.
If Black kids go to school and they don't see their principals that are Black, or they don't see PTO people being Black, or they don't see their leadership and see us in those different types of positions, they won't ever feel as though they're equal. So many times I've been in college groups or high school groups where we can have conversations, we can be in the same room, you can ask me for my homework the night before, you can do all this stuff, but when it comes to being in groups where we're presenting projects or we're doing group work, everyone groups together. I'm always in the minority group. It's not because I don't mind, but it's because of self-selection. It's because people go to their likeness. People are drawn to their likeness. Is that human? Absolutely. But certain things about our humanity we have to get out of because it's not going to be like if I'm going into a workspace or if I'm going on a job, they're not going to say, hey, all white people be in this group and work on this project. Or they're not going to say, hey, all Black people be in this group and work on this project. They're going to say, you, and you. You're going to be on this project today. Or if I'm working as a cashier at a McDonald's establishment, all the cashiers work together as a team to do what cashiers do. All the cooks work together as a team to do what cooks do. Their race isn't a factor. Their ability to do their job is the factor. And their ability to make sure everything that they've learned or they have applied to produce the best content for that company or to produce the best rates or sales or whatever it is for that company or that establishment. Race is never a factor.
Race has never been a factor for smartness
Mhm.
or intellect or your ability to do something.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention too, just thinking about the institution of integration, they put us in white schools. They didn't go out the way to be like, you know what, let's put some white people in black schools and really have that inclusion of everyone being able to enter in the space that's not normal, that's not theirs. And so we even have that happening now, you know, today in just many forms. It's okay for a black person to enter a white space and assimilate, but a white person can't do that. You know, it's okay for other minorities, Asians, Hispanics, Latina, for them to enter into a white space because that is the normal space, the okay space, but they can't enter into a black space. So even just thinking about that, those remnants have remained, and it's just like it's scary. I'm like, we need to be on the forefront of changing that and making it normalized that everyone enters into a space that they're not okay with. They enter into conversations with people, enter into relationships with people that don't look like them, and be okay with growing in that moment and growing in that relationship and in that space, because that's the only way that we can grow that compassion that we're all trying to have right now. We're all trying to enter into this time of unity, and that's the only way it's going to happen. We can't just have it that everyone enters into the white space or into the black space. We all have to be able to intermingle fully. And
We have to get rid of normal
yeah,
and what normal looks like.
that's good.
Or redefine what normal looks like.
Yeah.
Because normal to me would be going home to my black home. That's my norm. Normal to a white person is going home to their white home.
Yep.
That's normal to them. But just because someone else's normal isn't your normal doesn't mean that it's different or it's less than.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
we have to remember that there is a certain value placed on every person because they're a human
Yeah.
and because they're a child of God.
Yep.
So that means every people group has a certain level of importance, has a certain level of distinction.
Yep.
It was designed that way, so we have to be intentional about keeping it that way. You know, it's survival of the fittest, and it shouldn't be survival of the fittest
Yeah.
or survival of the skin tone that is more appropriate,
Right.
which is what it has, come to.
Yeah, and if you think about classism within the black community, if you think about it, there's two types of black people. You got the black people that assimilate and the ones that don't.
Yeah.
And the ones that are okay, and the ones that don't, they're a problem. And so that narrative is spread on the media all the time. That narrative is on social media. That narrative is spread between individuals. And so just kind of breaking down, like, black people, we are a spectrum. We all have different experiences. We all come from different walks of life. And so just like, we can't just continue this narrative of there being two black people.
Exactly.
Two types of black people.
Exactly.
You know, we're diverse within ourselves. And so just remembering that as well is important.
And with us, within that conversation, us as black people, we have to be advocates for one another.
Yeah.
We know that the system does not favor
Yep.
Yeah.
our skin color
Yeah.
as much as it favors white skin color.
Mhm.
So we as black people in our black community have to stand up for one another.
Yeah.
If we know that you're supposed to do a certain thing when you're voting,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we should tell each other that.
Exactly.
If we know that it's better, there's a better chance for us to further our education
Yep.
at a higher education institute, we
Yep.
should get out there. We should make our own programs to say,
Exactly.
this is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell you,
Nope.
but this is what you should be doing.
Exactly.
Be for all people
Yeah.
and be for everyone.
Yeah.
We can say, hey, this is a step you need to take. You need to sign up for College Board,
Yeah.
or you need to take SAT classes before you take your
Yes,
SAT, or
come
you need
on.
to take ACT classes, or let's get you a private tutor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me take you to the bank.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know a person who can show you how to set up your, private funding or your
Right.
savings account or something like
How to
that.
build your credit, just different things. Yep.
Mhm.
I agree.
And all,
Financial
and even things like that can be funneled back into our school system.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
certain school systems that have these resources,
Come on.
but there's certain school systems that don't.
Yep.
I don't understand why we require people or give people a choice
Mhm.
to be successful or not.
Yeah.
Let's try as an education system, let's try as a people group
Yeah.
to push people into
Yeah.
success and push them into their purpose and
Yep.
help them figure out
Yep.
exactly where they want to be in life.
Exactly.
That way, there isn't an excuse of, well, the system has failed me. Yes, it has.
Mhm.
But you
my
can
people
over-
ain't failed me.
Exactly. You
That's
can,
right.
but you can overcome that.
That's
Yeah.
That's no longer an excuse.
Yeah.
We obviously know. We're sitting in a
Mhm.
time where everyone's realizing, okay, white privilege exists. Okay,
Mhm.
the system was not set up for us.
Yep.
Mhm.
okay, now what do we do?
Yep.
We help other people understand us. And how do we do that? We become successful.
Exactly.
We decide to invest in ourselves. We decide to put it all out on the line.
Yeah.
And
Just
that's
like
into
other-
our communities.
Yes.
Yes. That was a leading everything you said, that was a leading factor in why I decided to go to an HBCU, because I wanted to take the experiences that I had growing up in a predominantly white environment, learning to assimilate into their environment. You know, there's just learning all those experiences and learning factors. I wanted to take that to my HBCU and, you know, show more of my brothers and sisters that might have came from environments that they didn't have the same opportunities that I had, and take it into those environments, you know, show them this is the way to do that.
Yeah.
And this is how you do this and that.
Yeah.
And so it was just, even growing up through my K through 12 experience, there was just a lot of frustration and questions, especially when I got to my junior and senior year of high school, because I was noticing, you know, I'm getting these different opportunities, and I'm getting this internship, and I'm getting to speak at this engagement and that engagement and be a leader in this organization. But a lot of that was centered around, unfortunately, the classes that I was in. Being in honors and AP classes. And I was noticing, you know, I had white teachers that loved me, but then I might overhear them having a conversation with another teacher about, oh, those kids in my CP classes, they're just, you know, they don't want to do anything. They want to be lazy. They're not smart. And it wasn't that they weren't smart. They're brilliant. They can do everything that us in the AP class can do. They just didn't have people advocating for them. You know, like you said, we had parents that, you know, put us on the right
Talking
track.
about how has discrimination shaped your outlook on American society? So we're talking about like personal experiences.
So, code switching has been a huge part of just how I've just viewed a lot of things. How I viewed, like, you know, how we have to assimilate into white society. Just thinking about throughout school and then different internships and stuff I had, how I would have to talk a certain way, you know, pronunciate my words a certain way. I would have to dress a certain way, you know, wear my hair a certain way. We look at the news and see how now black news reporters, they were discriminated against for wearing braids or wearing their natural hair. They were always expected to, you know, wear long, straight hair, you know? And so just thinking about all those different aspects has just kind of shaped my view of American society, how they expect us to conform to how they want us to, you know, look, talk, act, how they want us to just behave ourselves on a normal basis. And so that has just been a huge part of just, you know, how I've noticed discrimination. You know, growing up, you always hear, oh, you're pretty for a black girl. Oh, I like you because you talk that way. And it's just kind of like, you hear it so much, like, oh, you're an Oreo, that it just starts coming like, you just are like, wow, they really think this way. And so I think code switching has just been, it's something I learned from such a young age, from that experience with our neighbors, and they were like, why do you talk like that? Which I know now translates to, in today's, while I'm a 19-year-old young adult, that I have to speak a certain way when I walk into a certain environment. You know, that's what that translates to nowadays. If you don't talk a certain way, oh, you're not smart enough. It questions your intellect. If you don't speak properly. What is speaking properly? Each culture, each ethnicity, each people group, we all have a different vernacular. Who's to say that one is better than the other or one is more proper?
And it's crazy. I had a friend text me recently, and she was just like, hey, I have a question. I was just like, yeah, shoot it to me. And she was like, why do you change your voice when you're around black people and when you're around white people? And she was just like, you know, I really noticed that. And I was just like, you have no idea. When I have a voice for when I'm in class. I have a voice for when I'm around my family. I have a voice for when I'm interviewing for a job, which we all have a voice. We all want to sound better, but but other people sounding better is because they are trying to sound better. I'm trying to sound better because I'm already being judged by my skin before I speak. So I'm sounding better for two reasons. But I had to, you know, explain that people treat me differently based off of how I speak.
Exactly.
So like how we're talking in this conversation right now,
Yeah.
more people are prone to watch it
Yeah.
because we're not going to be viewed the way that the media has
Expects us to
portrayed
be.
all
Yeah,
black
exactly.
people.
That's right.
Yep.
So they're going to be tuned in and they're going to listen to what we have to say
Yeah.
because they feel as though we're a different kind of black person.
Mhm.
Ultimately, once we turn the cameras and the lights and everything off,
Mhm.
my voice is going to switch.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's going to go back to my rooted voice.
Yeah. And one thing I want to add too about code switching, I kind of came to this realization during college, so the past 4 years, and I found myself not code switching as much. So I had obviously my black friends, I had my white friends, I had my Hispanic friends, my Asian friends, all that, and I just found myself using the same words with people. Like I say sis a lot,
Yeah.
or I say child. I found myself like kind of normalizing my black wording, vernacular, all of that in just like different spaces. And it was such a freeing thing, and it made me realize how much I suppressed that
Yeah.
throughout my like younger school years, like K through 12.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't just kind of express myself freely. And so that was one thing that I noticed that I did, and it just like kind of helped a lot. I was like, wait, I don't have to like suppress that and kind of code switch to this more white persona necessarily every space that I walk into.
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna be who I am, and if you accept that, good. Like just like how I'm talking right now,
Yeah.
just like be like straight up. This is how I am. If you like it, whatever. If you roll with it, okay, cool. And another thing too, I was just thinking about the 60s and 70s and the Black Power movement and the importance of black hair. So I know we've been natural all of our lives. And so being natural, wearing your naturally curly hair is just now getting to a point where it's normal.
Yeah, it's normal.
You know, people are being okay with that, and just realizing like how hair was really political back in the 60s and 70s.
Definitely.
You wore your afro, they knew exactly what you stood for.
Exactly.
And so, and just now thinking about how code switching, we're all very, especially within our black community, we're very aware of it.
Yeah.
And like, I know for me, breaking that down, like I'm gonna wear my hair, I don't need to straighten it, I ain't touched a hot comb in a couple of years, and it's not happening. You know what I mean? It's just like kind of being okay with other people seeing who you really are.
Exactly.
And just like, and it's sad that we've gotten to this point where we're used to switching it up.
Yeah.
But I ain't switching it up as much anymore. We just gonna have to be okay with it. You're gonna be okay with me. But it's crazy how it just in our psyche we're just trained to do that. You know, and it's gonna take a lot of unpacking, a lot of unlearning to get to the point where we're okay with being who we are 100%. And just being able to show other people, this is who I am, this is my black culture, I wear it on my shoulders, you're gonna see it every day, all day, you better be okay with it, because if you're not, that's not my problem, that's just you, you know, so, yeah, that's...
And I'm glad you brought up the physical attribute of it, because people, when they look up the term code switching, they're gonna see that it has something to do with dialect and how people speak, but code switching is a full body movement.
Exactly. It is.
It's, you know, I'm not going to go to Walmart with a hoodie on, or I'm not going to go into my class looking like trash because I know, looking like trash.
What is trash?
Because it's college and everyone looks like trash at some point.
Yeah, little white person wear a hoodie and sweatpants, say okay, but little black person walk in.
Oh yeah,
that's a completely different
Yeah,
conversation.
because automatically it's he's less than. There's a chance that he could be questionable or his behavior could be questionable. He doesn't care about like, why is me going to a Walmart or me going to the grocery store just to get something? Like that's like I have to put effort into looking down, or I have to put effort into making sure I don't, you know, move a certain way. Code switching goes into making sure when I'm walking by someone's car and I hear, you know, the ringing of a lock clicking or something in my head. That's code switching. Okay, you know, next time I'm going to make sure I switch to a different side of the street to walk on so I don't have to walk by this person's car.
And make them feel uncomfortable.
And make them feel uncomfortable by my black skin. Even though I'm minding my business, I'm trying to get in and out just like everyone else.
Like, I'm not coming to your car. I don't want your car. I'm good. I got stuff to do. You got stuff to do. Mind your business, I'm bye.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
literally what it
Yeah.
is. But it's just like it's such a. We walk in a room
Mhm.
and there's just the uncomfortability that you
Yes.
see. You can physically see it. You
Yeah.
can physically feel it. It's crazy.
It's just,
absolutely.
and it's
insane.
like your subconscious tells you always have to be alert.
Yep.
We always have to be on our P's and Q's.
Yep.
We always have to be conscious when we walk into those environments
Yep.
because it's like tests are gonna come your way. They're gonna say something to
Mhm.
test like what type of person you are. And, they're gonna peg at it like, okay, she talks like that. She may dress the part, but can she act the part? It's like always having to be on your P's and Q's. Like somebody is always trying to test you to see, what type of Black person you are.
Ultimately, and my mom was just telling me, it's about character.
Mhm.
It's about character. If we're supposed to see each other, we should see each other as human
Exactly.
and as a character.
Yeah.
Whether that character is good or bad, that's what I'm going to judge someone on.
That's right.
I'm not going to judge them on or, class them up based off of their race. That shouldn't be the first factor. Their character should be the first factor
Yeah.
in how you decide whether or not you want to, have your allegiance lie within that person.
Exactly.
Or you want to carry on a relationship or carry on some type of friend relationship with that person. You should seek out their character,
Mhm.
understand their history,
Yeah.
and understand who they are as a person
Mhm.
first. And why does a name play a factor in how people treat you?
Ooh, naming is super deep. I think mainly because naming and what you see on paper and what people immediately perceive on the resume, on social media, on any form of just like non-personal experience, that name can say a lot. It can say a lot about your race. It can say a lot about your ethnicity and where you come from. And so like, just seeing, my name is Nikayla Fogel, and the way it's spelled is not necessarily correct. You could say it's very unique. Daya, your name is different. It has different roots and Swahili and stuff like that. So it's just like those little aspects. Like if someone can't pronounce it, it's automatically like, okay, what is that?
Yeah.
It kind of just sends off a red flag, like, oh, are they, Black or whatever. But I think it really is just, especially now, like for me, being a college graduate and entering into the workforce and just kind of thinking about, okay, so my name is Nikayla Fogel, they're not going to be able to pronounce it, and then automatically that perception that, okay, they're going to perceive that I'm Black or some other race because of my name, and then we know that happens on the job. People look at that and are like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, they may be like, okay, yeah, maybe because you have to be a diversity quota, so like that name is so important. But then it's also sad to see, and it's nothing wrong with choosing the names of your kids, whatever you want them to be, but then also feeling the pressure of naming your children something that is more white, that is more normalized, just so that they can enter into spaces based on a sheet of paper and what it says, and they're able to get in front of that person and their character is able to show first instead of them being judged first by their name. So it's crazy. But I know for me, my kids, they gonna get whatever name they gonna get.
Exactly.
They can be ethnic, whatever you want to say. I just think it's crazy that we even feel down to just the root of just before the child is even born, you're kind of already placing kind of an identity on that child. And kind of stripping away maybe some of that Blackness before they even grow up, before they even start talking, they start walking. You're trying to strip away some of that Blackness before they even get to the point where they're able to like make their own experiences too. So.
I am all for unique ethnic names because we have lost so much of our Black history, our history before we were enslaved Africans, our history. So I think it's so important that we do keep our ethnic names. Like my name is Daya. It's Swahili. That's African. And so I think it's just so important. It's one of the small factors that we have tied to our original history. But it sucks that our history is playing a part in our opportunities that we're receiving. We're being faulted for our history, that and it's making it seem like it's a bad connotation, that it's not good enough because yet again it's not meeting up to the right standards. And so a lot of times like it sucks that it's kind of like our blackness plays a part in, like Nikayla said, meeting a diversity quota. Like, oh, we're going to add them into the mix because so we can be considered diverse to make ourselves feel better.
Right.
You fill out applications and you apply for jobs and it's all up in the air. You know you have everything that all the qualifications for it, but it's all up in the air. You never know if what the company is looking for aside from you as a person.
Yep.
You never know if, like you said, they're trying to meet a diversity quota, or if they're going to look at your name and say, this is a risk, or we don't really know if she's one of those, or if what kind of person it is, even though clearly you have everything it takes for the position.
Right.
Your resume is just as good as anybody else.
Yeah.
You know that they're going to play your name into the factor. And it goes straight into racial profiling,
Yeah.
which I'll speak from my experience. Just literally the day after Ahmaud Arbery's, everyone found out about him in the video, surfaced on the internet, and the country went in uproar. But I just pulled over, talked to my mom, saying like, what should I do? They're not home. I'm just going to stick it in the mailbox. And I had noticed an unmarked car driving past me really quickly, and I was just like, I don't know who this is, but I don't got time. And quickly, I'm already knowing who they are, me seeing them seeing me, and I'm just like, I already know what's going to happen. I shouldn't already have known what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I get back in my car after I drop the mask off in the mailbox. I proceed to the stop sign. I see them on the street, that's adjacent to mine, and I'm like, oh my God, they're literally following me from a different street.
Oh, wow.
And I get to the stop sign. I decide to go their way. I decide not to turn their way, but I decide to go at them. And I'm driving down, and they quickly turn behind me. 2 miles that they followed me, and they finally pulled me over. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I'm already FaceTiming my mom, and I'm just like, Mom, I'm being pulled over. Obviously, you know why. That's a conversation for a whole nother day, because Black parents have to condition us for the worst. Not the best, but the worst. So I'm talking to her on the phone, and I'm just like, I'm being pulled over. Literally, there isn't a reason why. Like, my tail light's not out. I'm not speeding. I'm not speeding because I know they're behind me. So I'm just like, okay, I don't know what I'm being pulled over for. So the man gets out of the car. His partner also gets out of the car. And, this whole entire time, the man comes up to the vehicle. He immediately addresses the area that I was coming from, saying that there was a lot of drug activity and transactions and everything in that area. This is, first of all, there's no emphasis on what my name is, who I am as a person. A common police interaction. There, but it just goes into my whereabouts. What was I doing? Trying to find a problem. And I feel like, that's problematic in itself. Trying to find a problem before you see exactly who the person is. But as the conversation progressed, he characterized me. Oh, he's not like the rest of them. His mom is on the phone on FaceTime, and he's using words and using terms, and you can see that he's extremely agitated, but also extremely nervous right now. So I should probably assume the best and go back to my vehicle. All the while, his partner is literally looking inside of my car the whole entire time. So he goes back to his vehicle, comes back to me, gives me a little citation for speeding, which of course I was not speeding because I knew they were behind me the whole entire time. Literally, this is a 15-minute because I saw you back at the house, I saw you on the street, I saw you at the stop sign, I saw you everywhere the whole entire time. So you took out the time and took out my time and my day to give me a citation for something that you knew wasn't even right. And then you wrote down my wrong license plate number and the model of my car. So you were never concerned about what was going on. You were concerned about stopping me because I was brown and that I might be one of them. So we have to start having conversations about racial profiling and how that plays, a role into our community here, in our society. It's, absolutely crazy that I had to go through that experience, but after I was worked up about it, I was fine
Mhm.
because it's so normal.
Yeah.
I've been pulled over 5 or 6 times since I've been in college because I fit the bill for a Trayvon Martin,
Mhm.
or I fit the bill for whatever a drug dealer is supposed to
Yeah.
look like, because a drug dealer does not have a race.
No.
It's a part of their character that decided, I want to be a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Drug dealers don't have a race.
Mhm.
Or people that do bad things or do illegal things, it doesn't have a race.
Yeah.
A people group isn't responsible for all the drug problems in a nation. A
Yep.
people group isn't responsible
Exactly.
for all of the sin.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That we have to get that out of our heads
Exactly.
and get that, we need to stop looking at the news. Stop
Mhm.
looking at movies that portray people in the wrong light.
Yeah.
Start looking up information that's, about Hispanics, where, Hispanics aren't just this. Oh, black people aren't just this.
Mhm.
White people aren't just this.
Yeah.
Yep.
We promote racial profiling
Mhm.
by giving in to stereotypes.
Yeah.
Racial profiling started because someone stereotyped us wrong from the beginning.
Mhm.
Yep.
And they ate up the stereotype and fed into it
Yeah.
Yeah.
by putting it on the big screen
Yeah.
Exactly.
and telling their children, oh, watch out for this kind of black person,
Mhm.
or watch out for this kind of white person,
Mhm.
because this and this, could possibly happen.
Mhm.
We're banking so much on the potential of something happening
Exactly.
and not really realizing, oh, that's a human.
Yeah.
It just reminds me, like, if you see a news report and stuff like that, and you'll see, say there was, like, a robbery at a store, you won't see their name. For a black man, you're going to see black man robs a store. For a white man, you're going to see their name,
Man robs a
Or
store.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like they're so adamant on pointing out the color of our skin, like you said before, they point out our characteristics.
Mhm.
And that's the first thing they see.
Yeah.
And it's so very sad. It's so very sad. And it just reminds me of even the stories like the Khalif Browder story. I
Mhm.
recently watched the documentary series on Netflix and everything, and how he was imprisoned on Rikers Island for 3 years in solitary confinement for over 800 days out of his 1,000-day sentence for them saying he stole a backpack that he never stole.
Mhm.
And his experience unfortunately led him to commit suicide because there was just so much going on. And it just reminds you, it's like they just pulled him off the street, and it happens every day. And I have to be on my P's and Q's if I get pulled over. I have to make sure my hands are on the wheel. I have to make sure my window is rolled down. I have to make sure I already have my license and registration, because in the split second something can change.
Yep.
I have to think about, I have a family to go home to. I have parents that are worried about me.
Mhm.
And so it's just so much goes on to it in our consciousness on a regular basis that we
Yeah.
always have to be aware of these things,
Yeah.
because we have to always prove them wrong,
Yeah.
because we can slip up so easily
Yeah.
and the narrative can be completely
Yeah,
different.
I know yesterday we were just out and about just driving. COVID wasn't doing nothing, but we were just out. And I remember I saw maybe 4 cop cars, and I remember this just feeling in my stomach every time I saw a cop car. And I can't explain it. It's just like this fear of every time. And I think about just over the years, just as I started driving myself, just the fear of seeing a cop car. You're like, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're like, that shouldn't happen. You should
Yeah.
feel that, like, okay, you see a cop, you're not doing anything wrong, you're not speeding, everything should be okay.
Yeah.
We should have this feeling of cops and public servants are protecting and serving us and, serving our society
Yeah.
to maintain the peace.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I feel anything but peace
Yeah.
when you see a law enforcement personnel around you or near you or in their cop car driving around, and it's I feel the exact opposite of what I should be feeling, but it's a real thing, and I think a lot of us feel that way. I know we've had discussions about this before, just this fear. You're like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, you look in my car and you see I'm black, like, is that gonna lead to someone pulling me
Talk
over?
about how are black people discriminated against across the world. But when we start treating people like God didn't create them,
Yeah.
and we start saying, well, you're this and this and everything, and considering everything over the fact that they're a child of God and that they're a creation of God and that their skin and everything that comes along with their skin matters to God,
Yeah.
that's when we mess up, and that's how racism starts.
Yeah.
That's how we start putting people in certain groups and putting them in classes,
Yeah.
when we start define them as anything more than what God has.
Yeah.
We start putting godlike characteristics on ourselves,
Mhm.
saying, being that we're omniscient
Yeah.
and we're all knowing and we
Yeah.
know what's going on with
Yeah.
every single people group. And as soon as we start doing that, we start being our own God.
Yeah.
We start acting like we created the grass and the sky and everything else in between.
Mm.
It's not going to work if God is not in it.
That's
Yep.
right.
Literally nothing works without God in it.
Yep.
That's why our justice system is messed up,
Exactly.
because we took God out of it.
Exactly.
If we're supposed to run like, the kingdom of heaven,
Mhm.
and if we're supposed to be kingdom mindset,
Yeah.
and if we're supposed to, operate from a kingdom mindset, we have to consider the kingdom.
Exactly.
And we have to consider what heaven looks like.
Mhm.
A lot of people are going to be absolutely bamboozled when they get to heaven and realize that there are black angels, white angels, Hispanic angels, and everything
Speak
else
on
in
Everything
between.
in between.
Speak on it.
Or that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ does
Mm.
not look
Mm.
like white people.
Mm.
And that's that.
Because we just have
Come on
to,
now.
and and that's just a whole nother thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
How dare we assume
Mm-hmm.
the skin color of someone
Yeah.
so that people worship
Yeah.
that person
Yeah.
with that characteristic
Mhm.
playing a role in it.
Yeah.
That's how slaves were completely fooled,
Yeah.
because they would go to Sunday services
Yep.
where they would sit in the back and they would listen to white preachers
Mhm.
talk on subjects and speak on scriptures from the Bible
Mhm.
from a white Jesus.
Yeah.
So they would feel as though that they were less than from the root of
Yeah,
it all. They would feel as though that they were less
Yeah.
than because they were thinking, and people were manipulating
Mhm.
the scripture to
Yeah.
fit their bill
Yep.
Yep.
and to fit their cause. And
Yeah.
their cause was that white here, black here,
Yeah.
Mhm.
everything else here.
Yep.
Exactly.
So we have to stop making scriptures and forming scriptures around our own mindset and forming them back around God's mindset.
Yeah.
God's mindset was never for us to notice someone's skin color first.
Mhm.
It's for us to pay respects to how He made them.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me that God wasn't intentional in how He
Mhm.
designed everything,
Mhm.
or that God messed up?
Mhm.
Because every single day we intentionally tell God that He's messed up by not acknowledging His creation.
Come on.
And it's unfortunate,
Mm.
and it's sad,
Mm.
and it's disrespectful.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk about a whole lot of things and compare sins and, shoot a lot of stuff to each other.
Yeah.
But if we want to really talk about root issues,
Mhm.
we messed it up.
Yeah.
No one else did.
That's right.
We messed it up as humans
Yeah.
by putting each other in these classes.
Yeah. We need to go back to truth. What was truth? Especially as we call ourselves Christians and followers of Jesus,
Mhm.
and we believe in God, we have to look at that first. Go back to the Bible, read scripture, and take it for what it is and not for what we want it to be.
Yes.
And it's going to take it's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be what we want, but we just have to take it for what it is and believe that it's truth and go forward with that. And that's the thing that is crazy because, even within America, Christianity comes in so many different forms. We all call ourselves one thing, but we all believe different.
Mhm.
And that's a struggle too. And even thinking about Christianity was used as the reason for having slaves.
Mhm.
Using and changing the wording and all of that to fit into their agenda. And that's, again, being used and perpetrated today
Yeah.
with very recent examples of that. And so we just have to be very careful about not being truthful and not using the Bible and taking it as it is and not really digging into it. You got to know it
Yeah.
in order to use it. And if you don't know it,
Exactly.
leave it alone.
Yep.
Don't speak on it. Because you are calling God out His name, and that's not it. We
Yes.
can't be doing that at all. And so we know about colonialism through history, but one thing that I've noticed too is that as Christians, we also kind of participate in colonialism today. I just think about mission trips. There's nothing wrong with mission trips. It doesn't have to be just you going over to another country to help out a group of people that you deem need your help. And I'll be real blunt about it. That right there is a little bit of that white savior complex that I just struggle with.
You go into that a little bit more.
I don't know how to explain it. It's just the feeling that Black people or other people, minorities, other races, need the help of a white individual in order to make it, in order to survive, in order to like grow, and just that complex. And it's a struggle for me just in thinking about mission trips in general. Like, why? Like, I understand Africa's a third world country, and that's what it's titled, and I understand people going, but like, we're just going for that. We're building schools, we're converting people to Christianity. They have like in Africa, we know there are different religions and different groups of people. Like, our grandfather is from Nigeria, he's Yoruba.
Yeah.
They're Muslim.
Exactly.
There are Christians that are there. But why does we have to go there in order to enact our way of life?
Yeah.
And it even goes back to me thinking about, I took a class called The Critical Philosophy of Race, and it really talked about the root cause and the root just production of race and how we got to where we are.
Mhm.
And it really was like philosophers, and they talked about how black people were animals. They talked about people were unintelligent. They couldn't understand them. Their way of life was wrong. Just there were so many things, and I've read different texts in that class because it was a part of the class to read text to kind of figure out what the truth was, and that's what they were saying. And so that led into colonialism, and that white savior, like, they don't know what they're doing. They need our help because based on our standards, they're not human. They're not normal. They're not, I never have liked that part of it, because I know for me as a Christian, I wholeheartedly believe in loving people where they are and no matter who they are at that moment. And helping is not converting people.
Yeah.
Helping is not, making people feel less than who they are. And I feel like when you have someone coming in like, well, you're wrong. Like, what you believe is wrong, that's not what we need to stand for. So that's just my thought on the whole thing. People believe like people can say whatever they want to. But that's just always been a struggle for me, and just in this place of me being a Christian, believing in Jesus Christ as my Savior. That hasn't really sat well.
I think in our walk as Christians, as we go about our daily walk, and try and be godly and as close to God as we can, if we strive for that every day, strive for those godlike qualities, loving thy neighbor, the more we embrace that, the more holistically we will start to accept people for who they are and where they are.
Right.
And we'll get out of that mindset of trying to convert.
Yeah.
Because we have to get to a place where we accept people for who they are.
Yep.
And yes, you might have two different experiences. And yes, you might be able to help them, but help them, don't try and save them. You have to meet them where they're at and look at what their needs are and how you can assist with helping them go to where they need to go in life, not to where you think that they need to go. So I think in our walk as Christians, we need to really start to embrace the peace, love, but also justice.
Yeah.
Justice that we have to accept everyone. We have to accept equality.
Yeah.
And if we're not accepting that, we're not accepting what God wrote in the Bible.
Come on.
And so I just think that the more we get towards, being conscientious of how we operate on a daily basis, our thoughts, how we're raised is a lot of what we see. For some white people, it's not that they want to be racist, but they just see discrimination on a regular basis, that it just becomes ingrained to them that that's normal. It becomes ingrained into them that, we have to watch them because they're black.
Yeah.
Not because they said, oh, I'm going to watch them because they're black. It's because that's how they grew up.
Yeah.
And so we have to just learn to change our mindset and change our thought process. It's been ingrained into our history.
Yeah.
And so we have to make sure that we're stepping outside of that. And once we start adjusting ourselves and our generation starts adjusting ourselves, our kids and our grandkids and all that, it's going to follow suit, and we're going to be able to make progress.
Yep.
But until we start changing our mindset, we're going to be in the same place that we have been.
Yep.
the past 400 years.
So one thing I would like to charge people to start doing is really checking their perception and how they perceive things, how they perceive people, and making sure physical attributes aren't the first thing that they think about. That they think about someone's character, and think about their works, what they've done, how they contributed to society, how they contributed to their family. How are they with their family? How are they with different people? How, other things that all deal with their character as opposed to what they look like. So that's one thing I would say. Another thing that I would encourage people to do is to diversify their thought paths. Someone was like, well, I just need to just get more black friends. That's not going to fix the problem. You need to get more friends, not black friends. We need to stop labeling each other. And like I said, placing everyone, yes, I am black, but there's more attributes to me. There's more things that I bring to the table. So we need to start diversifying our friend groups. How do we do that? We continue to be ourselves, and then people come along. But we have to be intentional about not just being diverse with our color, but different thought paths. I have tons of friends who don't believe the same way that I believe in God. I have tons of friends who we disagree on abortion, or we disagree on pro-life, for an example. That doesn't do anything to our friendship, though.
Nope.
Just because we don't necessarily agree on a certain topic doesn't mean that we can't still be friends, or that we still can't find a common ground. One thing I would charge to Christians, we all don't have the same denomination. But we believe in Jesus. So let's focus on that. Let's focus on making sure that we are charging our hearts to be more like Christ. And our mission here on the earth is to be more like Christ and walk out. So what does that look like? We need to study it. We need to make sure that is our goal. Not saying you need to sit on this side and Jesus will hear you more. Or you need to be on this side and wear this, and Jesus might stop by your house, tomorrow or something like that. We need to stop getting so involved in the details of Christianity and focus on the Christ in Christianity, not everything that comes, along with it. Following Christ's character. People were attracted to Christ because of his character. Nowhere in the Bible did it say that people were attracted to Christ because he was a black man, or he was a white man,
or he was forced upon them.
Exactly. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that. So, again, that's where we messed up. People were attracted to him because of his works, what he brought to the earth, his miracles. People were attracted to him because of his intellect. People were attracted to him because he was saying he was the Son of God. People were attracted to him because of things that have nothing to do with what he looked like. So, other than the fact that he mirrored, the creation of God. But we have to start, checking our, perception checking and making sure that we diversify our thought paths and who we are around. So that's one thing I would say, as charge steps for people to get into.
I would definitely say having conversations like we're having right now. Have conversations within your family. Have conversations within your friend groups. Have conversations with people that don't look like you, think like you, talk like you. Have those different conversations, because through that you're opening up your heart and be open to, you have to realize that people think different ways because of the way that they were raised. So sometimes you have to agree to disagree. But you'll be surprised as how much your heart will open and how much realization you'll come to just from having those different conversations. Also, just reading up on just like books, watching documentaries. You'll be surprised by how much you can find that was not taught in our history books. That is so much a part of the Black history. And even if you are not Black, just knowing those different things, you are more understanding of where we come from when we say Black Lives Matter. Yes, all lives matter, but all lives doesn't matter until Black lives matter, you know? And so you have to just educate yourselves and be open to hearing things and hearing from people that don't look like you and talk like you. Just really, it comes down to educating each other and educate your younger siblings and cousins, and to let them know that you're going into a world that operates like this. but you don't have to conform to that.
Right.
You know, you can still be yourself within all of that.
Not only is it education for our white peers, our Asian peers, and our Hispanic and Latinx peers, just educating themselves about the Black experience, it's also as our role, I think, as Black people to educate ourselves about other experiences as well.
Definitely.
Because I feel like as the victim, as we have been kind of put in this situation where we have had to kind of be the victim in a sense, like I don't like that word, but in so many cases there's nothing but that place, you know what I mean? And so even though we are the oppressed group in this country, we can have the love and compassion enough to help, to understand other people as well. We can better understand our white peers. We can better understand our Hispanic peers. Read up on their history. Know the history of where they're coming from. This country is so diverse. And it's not just black and white. It's black, white, and everything else in between. You know? And so really I think this whole Black Lives Matter movement is also just a fight for just diversity and unity amongst everyone. You know? And so just kind of being conscious of that, like even for me, I'm like, I have to check that as well. Like I can't just think of it as the world is black and white. I have to remember that I have friends that are Asian. I have friends that are from Latinx and Hispanic heritage, and just from all over the world. You know, and so that's just another thing too. And so I gotta be able to check that. Like, am I subscribing to a mindset that is not of unity and not of diversity? Because it can happen to any of us.
And we have to consider other people and consider where we are. How do we do that? We don't need to be arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding us right now. Because all of the energy that we're exuding through this conversation should be used on people who have open minds, who are wanting to learn. There's no use in debating with someone who isn't on your same wavelength or who isn't trying to understand.
Right.
If they're trying to pick apart every word, why waste time on them?
That's
Because only thing that they're doing is picking apart every word. They're not trying to understand you. So there's no point in trying to understand their point. So we have to pick and choose our battles. And this whole racism thing is a battle. It's a battle of changing something that benefits only one people group. So while we do that, we can't be so concerned with people whose mission is to distract and deter people from the truth.
Right.
So one thing I would, encourage people to do during this time is to not give energy to anything that isn't giving positive energy back.
Yep.
And that's just in any situation.
Yep.